We made it. I don't know why I'm always surprised when we make it, but we made it. Elizabeth Riley, welcome to Leadership from the Heart. I'm so happy to see you today, Miss Elizabeth.
I'm happy to see you too. And I will say the only reason we make it when we do is because you're in charge of tech. If I was in charge, it would surely be a surprise every single time. So I'm glad that you have that gift.
Well, speaking of in charge, I love that you use that phrase because I have to ask our audience a question, and we're live on Facebook, we're live on LinkedIn Live, and I just want to know, and I'm going to read it verbatim because I am not going to miss one syllable of this phrase. I want to know, are you ready for the truth, wrapped in grace with the divine sides of sass, moxie, and fire? Because you better be. We have Debra Trappen today, and she's going to bring it. Welcome, Debra.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. Super fired up.
Fired up.
I don't even know. My mind's going in different directions on what that could entail. But even our small conversations right before, I'm like, oh, this is going any which way, and I cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
Yes. So we can talk about a variety of things.
Cool.
So for those, maybe only a couple who haven't had the opportunity to follow you, you're a keynote speaker, you're an author, you have an amazing podcast. I've been in the audience of a couple of your speeches, and you fire up so many. Can you share a little bit about yourself and just dive in?
Share a little about myself.
Well, all the way back on day one.
So super high level. I was born just outside of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was raised in Silicon Valley in California and have been here in Seattle for the last almost 20 years. So I kind of have this really cool triangle, 3 very different places where I have lots and lots of loved ones. And that is perfect for my personality because I love change and I love creating deeper relationships. And so when you have people outside of where you live that you love, you tend to go in on quality time versus quantity. And I love that. So that's kind of the personal side of things. I do, as I mentioned, live here in Seattle, Washington, and I love it. I love the seasons. I love the moderation and the moderateness of our seasons. Right now, it is gorgeous and sunny and the skies are blue. And in a month, it will be gray and rainy and gorgeous. And I soak it all in. As you mentioned, earlier, I am a keynote speaker. I love spreading the sass, moxie, and fire, of course, with the truth wrapped in grace. And that comes from a divine connection. I am a believer, and I am completely and utterly wrapped in spiritual grace myself. And so I love speaking into, in particular, women, but I also love speaking into bold men who want to hear from women and want to support women. They are very important in our cause, and they are 50% of this planet, and we need to link arms with them. The masculine and feminine energy were created to do amazing things together, and I truly feel called to remind us all of that and to show us what it looks like.
Wow. I'm already.
I have chills.
I know.
I think we're done. Okay.
We haven't quite had an intro like that before, Debra.
Okay.
I love it. Okay, so I don't even know where to begin first. I feel like I'm overflowing with questions here. Can we talk about WomanUP?
Yes.
One of the things that I love most about you and all of the sassy fire you bring is your care and attention that you give to women initiatives. So can we dive into that some and talk about what's fueling your fire? What's your big why with those initiatives?
I think it's from childhood, like this part of me that wants to empower women and empowering women. I feel like I need to explain that because there's so many women, in particular in real estate, who are like, I don't need to be empowered. I run my own business. And the reality is that you were empowered by someone, which is why you feel that way. And so when you feel disconnected from a movement or an initiative that is empowering others that look like you, in other words, women, that means your calling is to actually be part of the leadership. not part of the audience. And I learned that myself because from childhood, I was that little girl, that best friend saying, you can jump off the swing, like you can do the monkey bars. And, I got the notes on my report card saying, everyone always is asking Debra for advice. Like, it's not that she's talkative, but she's talkative because she's answering questions, like that was always me. And so it came so naturally to me. I didn't realize other women didn't have it. And when I had my aha moment, really, which I'd say in the real estate industry was about a decade ago. So 8 years into being in this industry, I started on the Inman circuit, right? Speaking out at Inman. And I remember so clearly one time sitting in the audience, I was an ambassador, and they did this New Kids on the Block thing. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Where they introduce all the new people. It was all men. I was like, what the heck? Like, real estate is 65% women. How are there no women on this stage? And I wrote a blog post. It was not scathing, but it really was like, where are the women, Brad? And he was like, you're absolutely right. And I put together a Power Women group at, maybe 2-3 weeks after that had about 9 women in it. And by Thanksgiving that year, we had started the Power Women group and created a sacred space that I didn't even realize was missing. But because I was listening to that still small voice saying, this isn't right. Why is this? Fast forward to the WomanUP movement in 2016. After, having this women's group and working on women's initiatives with organizations, I was introduced to Sarah Sudachan, who's the VP of Industry Relations for the California Association of Realtors, along with other initiatives that she works. She had this epiphany while traveling up and down the state of California that there were no female brokers at the table when she was going out on her broker tours. She was like, where are the women? Yeah. And so she's experiencing it in her role, in her world, in her state. I'm experiencing it in my role across the country, sitting in audiences and speaking on stage, thinking, this is ludicrous. Why am I the only woman? She's thinking, why am I the only woman? Totally different places in the industry, same problem. So we were whiteboarding. I in Seattle, she's down in Los Angeles, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this. And so by June 2017, we had our first event, and we had standing room only. We literally had to close the doors because we were breaking fire code, and which I love. And she cracks up because she was like, I think we might have 100 women. I'm like, oh, no, we're going to have so many women coming to this. She was like, okay. She didn't know me quite then. I mean, she just met me, right? And so at the 350 mark, she was like, oh my God, what is this? What have we started here? Then 2018 happened in downtown LA. And I think at that point, this California Association of Realtors CEO, Joel, was like, this is a thing. Like, this isn't simply just women wanting to get together and lunch, right? This is power. And we had more men that year. And then we had 2019. We traveled across the country and did our event in October. And we'd been in front of 10,000 people at that point. We brought so many people into the group, and it's took a life of its own, right? It really is like grown organically. Fast forward to 2020. Yeah. There was no in-person happening. Right. I mean, the association itself, they closed down. They're like not going into the office this year, right? And so there was no way we were pulling the membership in or inviting people from across the country to come to, well, let's just say kind of one of the hot spots for COVID. Okay. And so that's when I picked up the phone and was like, hey, I did this thing with EXP, like for my Fire Up book with Brad. Like, he interviewed me in this little cool space. I'm wondering if we can have access to that. And we did. We got access to it. And we built. And let me just tell you, ladies, that last week, was that really last week? That was last week.
It was last week.
It was last week. It was beyond my wildest dreams. And I have big dreams. And I have a really wild, vivid, super technicolor imagination. And it outpaced that. It was so good. I'm still getting notes from people saying, I was really weary that this virtual kind of avatar thing, I didn't know quite how it was going to work, but we had 800 people register for that. And we had at least 400 to 500 people in our main sessions each day. Like the avatar in the room. People were like, what is this?
Right?
Ta-da! And here we are. And
here we are.
Here we are.
So, there's so many things. First of all, I love hearing the history of WomanUP. I didn't know all that history, but what I really, really love is you're speaking, I think, my language and Renee's, that you woke up one day and you're like, whoa, how do I figure out a solution for something that affects me and maybe small people? But then when you start realizing, oh wait, it's a whole bunch more, right? And you start looking around, and then you reach out to like-minded individuals, and you both have that same idea. And you're like, hey, look what we could do. I mean, I can't imagine that first conversation either one of you ever would imagine what you just experienced last week, right? Hindsight's 2020. But I can say the exact same thing with Renee and myself. This is exactly what happened with Leadership from the Heart. She got on a phone call one day saying, oh my gosh, what's the solution? And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we just start reaching out to people and it snowballs. And so I love that organic growth and that organic word of mouth. And it's reaching so many other people. Yeah. You never in a million years. I mean, you would not have expected 800 people to be showing up in WomanUP last week. And I love how excited you are about our platform because, I mean, we're spoiled. Like, that's what we're used to.
Right.
I'm in Texas, and we're one of the biggest states, and so our team meetings every week have, a couple hundred people in it. But for y'all, for outsiders to come in and say, okay, how can we really bring community together, even in adversity, even in a pandemic, and to see how well, I love seeing your smile and how excited you are that you had all these people come together that, quite frankly, might not have been able to travel or been able to participate in the way that they've done in the past. So I love the story and the history, and I can't wait to see what you guys continue to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I was raised, like I said, in Silicon Valley. My dad's an engineer. And so I grew up 5 miles from the Apple campus and 5 miles from IBM. So I've never been afraid of tech. And I as a Gen Xer, it's kind of the creamy feeling of on the planet right now, right? Like we grew up without a phone in our hands, but we learned very, very quickly really how to embrace technology. And so, and plus, what is not fun about walking on a private island in a flipping adorable avatar?
I thought it was me. Oh, there she is.
Well, and Debra, you mentioned something that we need to circle back to, and we need to put some pressure on this conversation. It just struck me really quite poignant. You said, "I have big dreams."
Yeah.
And can we just talk about? I feel as women at times, either there's a hesitation to make that statement, or there is maybe what is a perception of outside environmental situations that would prohibit or give us apprehension to make that statement. That statement is important. I'm inspired that you used the phrase, that you said it as eloquent as you did. And I think that we as women need to give us grace to say that. When you have big dreams, say it, and say it out loud, and say it, scream it. Yeah. Not enough women are saying it, Debra.
Not enough women are saying it. And I think that in particular right now, we're in this COVID coma with our energies. Like we're trying to figure out this balance of saying like, I'm thriving right now while people are dying. Mm-hmm. And I think that so we not only have the self-limiting thoughts floating around in our heads, we're also like, well, how egotistical is it if I'm like, I'm doing well right now and that I'm building things and I've got big dreams. And I simply say to anybody who's feeling that way out there, like, crush that. Shake off the shame that you might be feeling about thriving right now. Because yes, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we were not created to live small. We were created to have big dreams, and we all have different dreams. Now, some of them might look the same, but the people we're here to serve and love and lead are all different. They're all unique. Like, I say some things that Brene Brown says. I say some things that Oprah says. I say some things that Madonna sings. But that doesn't stop me from saying them, because the people who are in my lioness pride, the women and the men who are surrounding me, are not the same community as those three women have individually. And it took me a while to get really comfortable with that, especially with the internet, right? Like, everything you do is kind of captured, whether you want it captured or not, right? You're on stage and you're saying something, and you're like, oh, that didn't really sound that great. It sounded great here, but when it came out of my mouth, it didn't sound quite so right. And so I also teach affirmations, right? I teach writing custom affirmations. And I think that having a statement, a personal statement that you can speak over yourself about your dreams, will get you more comfortable and confident to say, I have big dreams, because you need confidence in order to say that.
You need confidence, and you also need to give, I think, ourselves our own individual permission to say it. Yep. And not need someone else's permission to say it, which Elizabeth,
who would that be?
That's huge, right?
Like, who would be that person to give you permission if it's not yourself?
You hit the nail on the head. And I paused because I really hope that we as women absorb that. I'm very fortunate to be supported by the most incredible family and men around me that allow me that space. But I didn't always feel that way. And I certainly have come into a confidence that allows me now to say it. I didn't always have it. And so I love that you're putting pressure on this conversation, because I think, and I'm a mom of boys, but I think certainly if you're a parent, or you are in any way in a leadership role with young kids, I think we should be instilling this in young girls early on, that you should say, I have big dreams. Yeah.
Well, our words are powerful. Even a red flag in something you just said for me, Renee, these people allowed you to do something. They didn't allow you to. It's that word alone, like even just shifting that paradigm for yourself, right? Like, I'm supported in my dreams by the people in my world.
Right.
That is so much more powerful and focused and the truth of it, right? Because you're certainly not getting up every day going, honey, can I go to work now? Like, but we've been trained to think that we're allowed to do things when really we have absolute freedom. Now, within bounds. Obviously, we need to honor the people who we're choosing to walk this planet with. We don't want to be like bull in a china shop. But even the words, just really paying attention to the words that we're using. It's this season has really done that for me. I've been doing so much research, even like we were talking about in the green room, on the feminine energy in my relationship with God. Right. Like, I'm reading Mary Magdalene Revealed, which is just blowing my mind. And one of the things that this woman teaches, or that she shares in the book, and she's researched so many religions of man, like so many. She is a theologian times 100. And she said when she did this presentation to, it was like a panel of different religious leaders. So of course, they were all men, but like a Catholic priest, maybe like a Lutheran pastor, a monk, like all across the gamut. And she changed the pronoun from he to she. And they were like, whoa! Their like minds were blown. And then they went, oh, now I see what you're saying. If my whole life I grew up with the pronoun not representing me, how connected could I truly be? Mm. And we have that same exact power in every word we use. And so as you're doing life with yourself, with your voice in your head, that voice that you hear more than anyone else's, just remember that, right? And gosh, the statistics, ladies, 80% of what we say on a daily basis is the same thing on repeat, day after day after day. 80% of our self-talk is the same. And up to 90% of that can be negative. Like, think about that. And this is not just me guessing. This is actual research. And so we have to get in the driver's seat of our thoughts. The custom affirmations are a huge part of that, because we don't always have control over that first thought, right? We see something and we react to it in our mind. We see our reflection and we're like, oh my God, where did that chin hair come from? Where did that wrinkle come from? Where did that extra whatever come from? But we can replace the second thought with love and grace and tenderness. And that is in our control.
What you're saying is really powerful. So Renee has boys, but I have 2 boys and 2 girls. And I find myself, even, you know, as we've been raised, and we've all been raised in very different or interesting backgrounds compared to what's going on in the world today, right? We didn't have all the technology. We didn't have Facebook and TikTok and all these things going on. And it's interesting to me to watch my daughters, how they interact and how they relate to people now. One's only 7, and God help us all. But my 11-year-old right now, who's 6th grade, she's a lot bolder than I ever was. And so I'm watching myself constantly on how I speak, how I react. She's watching me, especially during these times in adversity. And so it's a constant reminder for me to change my thought process. And by me trying to raise my strong, confident daughter, it's changing some of the bad habits that I've had over the years. I don't know if that makes sense, but because I want only the best for her. And I'm like, well, shoot, if I only want the best for her, then I've got to I get the best too, right? So it's, you know, and that's one of the gifts, I think, during this pandemic. We're all here together. We got a lot of family time, lots of conversations, but it's been kind of my aha moment where you have to stop and you're in the quiet, and then you just realize and recognize, I deserve the best too. And it's not selfish, and I don't need to feel guilty about it. I struggle with that, but I don't need to.
Amen. Preach it into yourself and to your daughter and into every woman you ever meet. Because during one of my Fire Up Your Moxie keynotes, I have this one segment, depending on who the audience is, depending how long I have, I go through this kind of self-reflection exercise, and I say, like, what is the last thought you had about yourself? And usually I'm doing this as a keynote, kind of kicking off an event, because of course, fire. And everyone their last thought was looking in the mirror, right? Before they came down to the room. And so like their eyes are closed and they're thinking about it. And I can see the expressions on their face. You know, first they're excited because I've asked them to close their eyes. So they're like, this is going to be so good. And then they're like, oh, I did. I said I was fat, or like, I don't fit in this anymore, or something negative. And then we stand up, we open our eyes, and we say, I am worthy 3 times. And then they sit down. And then I ask them, how did it feel to say that? And how did it feel to say that? The words that people shout out, they rip a hole in my heart almost every single time, because it's things like awkward, embarrassed, not worthy, uncomfortable. Because we've been trained for so long to think that loving ourselves is selfish and egotistical, that caring for ourselves is selfish and just unbelievably egotistical. Like to say that I'm going to do something for myself, when actually it's selfless and strategic to take care of ourselves. We cannot pour into others the abundance of love and joy we were created to pour into them if we're empty ourselves. And it's these moments, ladies, that if we can create little triggers in our days, whether that's, I'm a huge fan of the sticky notes.
Yeah.
Sticky notes. I love sticky notes. I will never give sticky notes away. And I cannot even stand that there's an app for sticky notes. I'm like, it's it's sacrilegious.
You like the art of writing.
I do, and I like to doodle on them, you know. So I'm a huge fan. When I was growing up, my mom used to put love notes in my lunchbox. Did you get those? You know, like you open it, it's like a little heart on your.
Oh my gosh, y'all. I got to tell you really quick, you're saying that my daughter went, two of my kids went back to school in person this week. And as I was making my lunch, my little one said, Mom, did you put a love note in here? And I was like, no, I hadn't yet. And I was like, oh my gosh. But it's things like that. And look, you're grown, and these are the things you remember. So
yes. And guess
I'm
what?
the same way.
Just like we were talking about before, no one else is required to write a self-love note to you. You are in absolute control of that. And so one of the fun exercises that I take audiences through is when you have in your next, you know, quiet time, get a bunch of sticky notes out, put them all on your desk, and write yourself little love notes and put those all over your house. Like you were uniquely fashioned for greatness. Your smile inspires others to smile. Like write your love notes to yourself and put them everywhere, and do it for the other people in your house. It becomes a kind of a fun, I don't know, sticky note bomb, because you start doing it for each other, right?
I love it.
And we have the ability to fill our homes with love and joy. We have that. We are in control of that. And if we were to all do that, if we were to all create space for loving on each other in our homes, how we walk out the door shifts immediately. And not everyone can do that. There are women who are listening who are in hells in their homes. And, you know, I hope that you have someone in your life that you can pick up the phone and say, I was listening to this crazy redhead today, and I no longer want to live this way. I want help. And that there are people to help you. If you've not heard, so earlier, did you hear this during COVID where if you get a text from a friend that says, I need soap, that's a sign that she's in an abusive relationship?
No,
I haven't heard that.
I haven't heard that.
So I'm just telling everyone now, because it's something that I guess started at a women's shelter. And so it's just kind of permeating through like this, these conversations saying, if you are someone who is listening and you need help, text your friends, I need soap.
So,
and it's like as benign as it gets, right?
yeah.
He picks up the phone. He doesn't see that. He's not going to think anything of it. And so this is part of how we come together in times like this. Mm-hmm. We recognize, again, like we said earlier, we need to love on ourselves. We need to support and celebrate that we're thriving, but we also need to keep sacred space for those women who can't get there yet because they're holding on for dear life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But we have the power to do both at the same time. We can do both.
You're giving the space. I don't want to say permission. See, I'm thinking about my words, Debra. You have me thinking today. But you're giving the space for thought about allowing us to be okay with being celebratory over positive things right now. Elizabeth and I have spoken a lot on the show Leadership from the Heart over the last 6 months of trying to balance, but there has been a lot of blessings, right? Mm-hmm. And there have been a lot of things that we can talk about outwardly and still wanting to not lose sight of the fact that there's literally a global crisis going on. And so what thoughts do you have about, not only from a mindset perspective, but even just in our presence as we navigate through the world, how do we maintain some balance and give some space to that fact?
Well, I think simply speaking it out loud, right? Not allowing where we are now to silence us or to make us small or to dull our sparkle or however you want to say it. And realizing as you're saying it, that there are going to be people who will reject it. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. And it's okay to also remember you're here for a purpose. And if there's a message on your heart about celebrating something that's happened in your life, you're supposed to say it out loud. Like You're supposed to do that. And just as when I'm talking, I'm hearing that still small voice going, okay, make sure that you're bringing in the warm hug for these women who are fighting for their lives on a daily basis. Say that now. Like, if we simply stop trying to control everything and allow this space for our intuition, to really become front and center, whatever that looks like to you in this phase, in this season. To me, she is like a screaming siren right now. Like, there is no missing what my intuition is saying. None. So I'm the one choosing to muffle her. Right. Yeah. And do I want to be responsible for putting the muzzle on my intuition? No, I don't. So I just say it. I simply say it. And has that gotten me in trouble a couple of times? Sure. Earlier, maybe April-ish, I had a couple of confrontations with people over my Moxie affirmations. And they were women I've known, so it wasn't like crazy trolls, but they were like, I think it's really inappropriate that you're still doing your Moxie motivational affirmations on Mondays. And I was like, okay, well, tell me more. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Right. And, the tell me more is my go-to when someone is coming at me. Tell me more. I want to understand more. And really what it came down to was that they felt their voice inside was saying, but what about the people in pain? Yeah. But what about the people in pain? And so my response is, if those are the people in your heart, those are the people you should be having a conversation with, not me. When we see something's missing, when we feel called to protect a certain group, whether it's children or women or whatever it might be, that's the calling that we're to focus on. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that I don't care about people who are in pain. However, my main focus is truly helping people to engage, elevate, and empower their mindset, their communities, their everyday step forward. And so I can weave in a red thread that is about, if you are in a place where you cannot get out of your mindset, where you are stuck and you don't want to get out of bed, I get it. We've all been there. Yeah. Don't stay there. Right. How can I help you get up? But my whole message can't be that, because that's not what I'm here. I am not here for that. And those conversations actually inspire me to even get more focused with my words, to get deeper into the why behind the affirmations, and to remind people that even if you do feel like this, I am not worthy. I made some horrible decisions today and I'm not worthy of saying I'm worthy. I can speak to that because I've had the conversations now. I can speak to, even if you don't feel that you're worthy, close your eyes and feel the feeling you will feel when you feel worthy. And because the feelings and the focus on the feelings, that's the power that's inside us, is we can manifest that feeling as long as we can even imagine the feeling. If you can imagine the joy you will feel when you feel worthy, you can obtain it. It is not impossible. It is 100% possible. And so there's always an answer for those people. It's just, again, not my focus.
Well, it is your focus. You're including it. What you said was you said a lot powerful, but you were speaking about the interwoven thread, right? And you are giving it space to say this is relevant, and also we're here. Yeah. To extend a hand and lift others up as well. Elizabeth, this I have to say, this is powerful.
There's so many things going through my head right now. I mean, like the word I keep thinking is intentional, and how intentional you are in everything you do, everything you say, and for the better good of others. I mean, it's super powerful. And what you were just talking about right there, I mean, we all get caught in that. And sometimes Renee and I kept saying, okay, we always have to be strong. We always have to be strong. No, we don't always have to be strong, because that's where you lose your authenticity, and that's where you lose your purpose and your intention, right? I remember a story. I was at a conference, a women's conference, and talking about, it was like a Moxie type conference, but they were talking about a herd of elephants. And you may have heard this, okay? And there's all these female elephants. When a female elephant is having a a baby or is sick or is injured or anything, the herd all comes around and protects.
This is Jen Hatmaker.
Yes, it is. Okay.
I
She
love
is
her.
amazing. But so you know exactly what I'm talking about, right? And I as a gift to some of my girlfriends, I was like, I think she's awesome. I want you guys to experience her, because you build your tribe. You know, I want to pour into others as much as I can, but you've got your core tribe. I mean, Renee, if I'm down, I know I can call Renee, vice versa. But the elephants, you all protect each other, right? You've got the strong ones out on the outside, but not always are they going to be strong. And when they're not strong, those other ones come in and they circle around them. And it's funny because I've got this group, and anytime I think about it or see elephants, like that was so powerful to me. And I was like, I want to be that elephant, right? And it's okay not to always be on the outside, because I know that I have the other elephants there to support me. And as women, I think we have a huge opportunity, especially now, to build each other up and let other people be sad or be heard or be, celebrate. And
Yes.
I mean, exactly what you're talking about right now. That's all this stuff is going through my head. I'm like, oh my gosh, I so needed this. And so you're just such a blessing, but intentional. That's the word. Your words are spot on.
I appreciate that. So I have a couple of thoughts on that. First, so one of my, I call it your lioness pride. And if you've not heard my talk on empowering your lioness pride and how I explain what a lioness pride actually is in the wild, I highly encourage it. I'll drop it in the comments after the show. But there's this, the lioness pride is very, very powerful. And when you know who your inner circle is, it changes everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as women, that dwindles. The number of women in our lioness pride dwindles as we get older. And for the patriarchy for decades has taught us that good girls have big gangs. And if you don't have a lot of friends, that you're not good. And it's such a lie. It's such an absolute lie. So if we can start remembering that on our journey, that the elephant circle that Jen Hatmaker talks about, when the woman who's having the baby, who's birthing whatever it is that she's actually birthing an elephant in the wild, but we're not always birthing babies. We're birthing businesses. We're birthing ideas. We're birthing another stage in our families with our children's. Like we as women are constantly in a state of creation and birth. That is how we were created to be. And so we all need that circle, but it's not every elephant that's surrounding that one female. Right. It's a small group, right? Yeah. And so if we can really remember that and remember that we don't have to be good girls like the patriarchy has told us we need to be. We can be saucy, sassy, nasty if we want to, because that's part of getting things done, is saying I'm okay with my community dwindling so it becomes more powerful and focused and intentional. And that process brought me to Molly. So have both of you met Molly McKinley yet?
I have not.
I haven't met her in person yet. No.
Okay. So we definitely need to get her introduced to you. So we do so many collaborations together. I mean, over the last 5 years alone, it's insane the number of things that we've done together. We're getting ready to launch something new in 2021. But the word in her business is intentional. She has a tea company called Intentionalities. She's writing a book about intentional business that brings like the nature of things into how we grow and nurture a business. And so she's kind of a mirror for me. Right. We have, it's like the Elizabeth to the Renee, right? We always have to have that person that we can fully open the kimono with, that we can be as real gets with each other. Because if we don't have those people, or at least one person that we can do that with, then there's no one to sing our song to us when we've forgotten it. And so it's important for us to be vulnerable with at least one person so that person can help us with those big, bold dreams, or we will forget them.
That's important for us all to remember. And yes, thank you, Elizabeth, for being my person. She's had many of calls, actually this afternoon, or well, actually it was this morning.
Yes, but that's okay. We've had many too.
I have a question, Debra. As we're sharing conversation, I keep coming back to this one thought. So, we started Leadership from the Heart series, Elizabeth and I, literally on a phone call. It was March 12th, really coming together and saying, what the bleep are we going to do? How are we going to lead? How are we going to be strong?
Yes.
I keep coming to this question. We all have a date. For us, it was March 12th when we woke up and the world changed in 2020. Yeah. Whatever your date is in March or whenever it hit. What was the first thing you said to yourself, Debra Trappen, when you realized the world was changing in March?
The first thing I said to myself. So here's the thing. The first thought I have every day is basically, good morning, God, what do you have for me today? And so I would say the first thought I had was, oh my, is this really happening? And this is going to be fun. And when I say fun, I don't mean wee fun. I mean, like, this is going to be circus, right? And I need to put my armor on. I need to remind myself every day whose I am and who I am and why I am here, or it would be very easy to fall into that negative spiral that actually I feel so many people are still stuck in. I was like months now. Like, this isn't new. This is normal right now. Right now. This is how we're eating.
This is normal.
Yes.
And I get it. And I think what you're saying is so important too, because I have a little issue with, when this gets back to, there's no getting back. This is it. It's an evolution from here. I believe in progression from here. Mm-hmm. But like March 11th is not coming back.
We thought it was going to goes back. But
honestly, I don't want it to. Do you? Like, I don't want people to go back to that senseless hustle. Like, I love being home. I really do. Like, I didn't realize how much I love my home because I was always traveling. By this time last year, I'd been on 60 flights.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think funny about that, because you talk about you being an introvert, and I'm usually very much an extrovert, and I'm always on the go, and I'm always doing, and I'm always going. And that forced stop was actually very awesome for me. So, when this all happened, a lot of people had their head in the sand, and no judgment, but it's like none of us really knew how to operate. But I had this really weird, eerie sense of calm, right? And I would tell Renee, I'm like, this is an unexpected gift of time, especially for me. I'm talking about for me, because I never stop. And so for me, I took it kind of the good with the bad, if you will. And I tried to make it more on the positive. But we all thought we would just go back to normal after a couple of months. So Renee, you're right. It's not. So it's what can we do with it now? How can we continue to empower others and really focus on our quality tribe and not our quantity, right? Because quantity is how I used to measure myself. The more people I had around me, the more friends, the more, as long as I had as many as possible, then I was worth something. It wasn't until I got a little bit older and started reevaluating those friendships, and you realize, no, it's not about the quantity, it's the quality of your tribe. Yep. So I think people right now have that opportunity to really focus on their quantity and see what's going to help them in the next stage.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. You're singing one of my songs right to me, honey. I think that I think a lot of people have taken the time to kind of go through their Facebook feeds and not necessarily even unfriend, but maybe unfollow some of the feeds. I think over the next couple of months, it will be incredibly necessary for people to do that, because we have never been so divisive as a country when it comes to an election like this. I mean, ever. And so we are learning things about people right now outside of the pandemic, right? Politics and pandemics, like, what a wild storm.
Yeah.
However, if you can flip your mindset to I am going to understand what people's values are like I have never been able to before. How the political scene, the pandemic, it all comes down to what you value. That's what people are arguing about, right? And so you have a choice who you keep as a Facebook friend. No, Facebook doesn't force you to keep people who have diametrically opposite values than you. And I encourage you to release those people, because those are not the people who are going to love you and that you will love back in your business, in your life. And why keep them? We don't need to collect people anymore. Like, the time of collecting is done. Now it's time to truly connect on deeper levels. And I think people will, once we get back to, getting on planes and driving and coming together in groups, because that will happen. It will always be different though.
Yeah.
It can't be, it will not be the same as it was before. And again, I think that we've found so many silver linings in that again, if we're writing them down and reminding ourselves of those, of the fact that spouses have gotten to know each other more than they've ever known each other, that parents have gotten time with their kids that they've never had before, that parents are realizing how hard school is for their kids like never before. They're appreciating teachers.
I was going to say how amazing our teachers are. Absolutely.
And now I think there's a beautiful rising of mouthy activists, especially in women, who are going to now fight for those teachers and their salaries and get them what they deserve.
Yeah.
Because now they've had to be the principal and the snack queen and all of the things. And they realize, whoa, like these people need to be making more than my nail technician.
Right.
Right. And so if we can't waste the crisis, we can't waste the pandemic, we can't waste what we're learning through the politics. If we connect with those people who share our values and create those lioness prides or tribes or squads, whatever you call it, we can make a difference. We are the change we seek. We simply need to focus and be intentional with who we're surrounding ourselves with, and values align with them, and then move. We can do it.
I think we need like 5 hours. First, you are coming back.
I was just saying, I
looked at the
I
clock.
schedule Debra in my day every day, in my schedule every day.
Well, we can have Debra in our schedule every day, and we want to give Debra a second to share where we can find her. But first, Elizabeth Riley, we have the question. We got to ask the question.
The question, absolutely.
We're going to put you on the spot, Debra.
I know, Debra, you didn't have any questions, really. We just knew that we would open the floodgates and greatness would come out of your mouth. And so you definitely have not disappointed. But we do have one question we ask every guest.
Okay.
Hold on. Get ready. I don't know. This is going to be great. I know it.
I have drilling going on in my background. So, Renee, you go ahead and ask.
Okay, Miss Debra, what does leadership from the heart mean to you?
What a beautiful question. I love how it weaves in everything that you're doing. Leadership from the heart is someone who slows down and who knows who she is, who knows who she is, who has a beautiful divine set of core values and leads out loud on purpose and on her own terms every day, surrounded by the most amazing lionesses that she has cultivated and nurtured relationships with.
You didn't know you were going to be asked that.
No, that was beautiful. Like poetry, chills. I mean, that was, yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you just encompassed everything that we're about. So you just said it very well. So thank you for joining us. And will you please come back?
Of course. I love to spill the tea.
Well, and I looked at the clock and I went, oh my, but wait, there's so much more.
We just started.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Miss Debra, where can we find you? Podcast, online, share it all, because we need more Debra in our world.
So to get started, of course, the best place would be my website, because that has all of the ways to connect with me. And that's debratrappen.com, DebraTrappen.com. strategist.com. I also have a fiery resource page that I actually built for WomanUP last week that I will drop in the comments of the show. It's debratrappen.com/WomanUp2020. Yes, WomanUp 2020. And that has a great tool for you to start your custom affirmation writing process. So go and download that. It's free. It's free. There are also all sorts of other ways on that page. There's my Moxie chats that I've done with women in the past. You can see the past guests that we've highlighted there. There's the Spill the Tea show that I do with Molly every Tuesday at 1:40 p.m. Pacific time, if you want to come in. And those shows are fun. And when we first started doing them, they were kind of out of my comfort zone because I'm this, right? And I have a definite fiery energy, and Molly has beautiful silver hair. And so we were like fire and ice. And so she, I'll welcome everybody with like a hello world. And then she comes in and centers us with breathing. Like literally we do a breathing exercise. We talk about the tea we're sipping. We talk about the affirmation from Monday. And then she closes us out with meditation. And so it is one of my favorite hours every week. I encourage you to join us. Check it out. See if it's your cup of tea. And you can catch up on all the past episodes there. There's also a couple of other downloads. There's a gratitude challenge in there and ways to get connected. So definitely check that out. But I'm here. I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere where there's a Gen X population, I'm there. And my handle is Debra11, Debra11. That's on Instagram. I love Instagram. That's here on Facebook and Pinterest and Twitter. And I am not a TikToker. That whole Keynote, that's not me. Nope.
But that's okay.
Entertaining. I love to go there to be entertained, but I'm not really the mouth. Have you ladies seen Sarah Cooper though? She's freaking hilarious. She started there. She's the gal that lip syncs the president. It's so good.
Yeah.
I think that there's just some people who have really figured out some fun ways to use it. And she's a comedian. So what a brilliant way to use the tool. But yeah, I think that's the best. DebraTrappen.com.
Well, you're coming back. It's affirmative. It's
okay.
Happening. Thank you for all you do in the industry. Thank you for the love and attention and care that you pour in. It makes a difference. So you are appreciated.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor to share time with you ladies. And I am thrilled to see this growing and that your stick-to-itiveness with it. Hopefully it continues after the pandemic and that this is not a COVID show, that this is a let's lead forth.
We're not going anywhere. Don't you worry.
I love it.
We have big
silver linings.
Right, Miss Elizabeth? We have big dreams.
Yay.
All right, ladies. Thank you for watching Leadership from the Heart today. Thank you, Debra. Thank you. We'll see you soon. Make it an awesome day.
Bye.
Bye.